day a friend and I were discussing something. We have so many conversations about like this Christian walk. She is not where I am with the Lord and is really struggling about how to get there. And so our conversations are always very interesting. And one of them that we were talking about the other day, I feel like the Lord told me to share here. So she was talking to me about, the struggle, and she said a very interesting thing. She said, Angel, it's not like I don't believe the things that you say, and it's not like I don't see it, in your own life, but for some reason it's just really hard for me to be convinced. And I thought, that is exactly the best way that you could say that, because I get it, because I have been there before, and I didn't get to this place that I am in overnight. So I thought it was so interesting that she said it that way, and I also wanted to share with you some of the things that I shared with her. So I felt like the Lord told me to talk about this today, and even before getting into what she and I discussed, He reminded me to remind you that we all are TriPart beings. So what that means is that you have a physical body, which is what everyone sees. The person that you live in, your hair, your skin color, your race, the size of you, how tall you are. The other part of you is your soul. That is your mind, your will, your emotions, your personality. That makes up your soul. That pretty much is where you determine what you want to do. Your will, your own decisions, where you go in life, how you feel about things. That is your soul. The other part of you is your spirit. And that is where the Lord's Holy Spirit resides, or perhaps the devil's spirit if that's what you're carrying. But the reason why I'm talking about all of that is because I think first that you have to understand that you are a TriPart being. And many people don't think of themselves as that way. They only see the physical that they see, and then they know that they have a personality. And I really don't even think people actually look at that as a two-part being. You don't even think about that concept. So one of the things that I was telling her is that one of the things in this Christian walk that you have to do is to stop catering to your soul in order to get this right. So I was saying to her, even like music, I don't think many people realize the influence that music has on your life, on your walk, on your mindset. And I was saying to her, it's not like I always want to listen to Christian music. However, I am wise enough to know that it is my spiritual man that is being built up whenever I choose to listen to Christian music. And so even when I was saying that to her, she said, well, Angel, sometimes I can't get into it though. And I expect her to say that. If you've never listened to this kind of music and it's not your first choice of music choices, whether it's Christian music or reggae or country, if that's not your choice, you're not going to get into it, But I was saying to her, it's not about getting into it, it's about feeding your spiritual man. I think that so many of the children these days do not realize the words that they are repeating and chanting along with. And there are power in your words. I think about this one song that my cousin and I joke about, all my friends are dead, or something like that. I don't know, I'm sure that you all know what song I'm talking about. But when I first heard that, I thought, oh my God, I hate that song. Who wants to go around singing about all my friends are dead? And I'm just like, these kids are singing this, something that the devil wants, and they have no idea that you are speaking into existence something that you want to happen, even though you don't really want it to happen. But that's how tricky the devil is. So you have to be careful about like the things that you're watching, the things that you're listening to. I'm not saying that it's all wrong or that it is all sin, but what I'm saying is make a conscious decision to cater to your spirit and not cater to your soul. Because when you do decide that you want to be wiser and you want to seek the Lord, you're going to have a harder time when you're always catering to your soul. And that goes for Christians also. Many Christians are struggling to surrender or even just be at church because in your spare time, you're always catering to your soul. You're always just watching TV, or you're always listening to music that's not necessarily uplifting or spiritual or about God. Or you're hanging out in crowds and in situations that are never uplifting to your spirit. It always caters to your soul. What does your own will want to be doing? What do you like to look at? You know, that kind of thing. And then you ask yourself, well, how come I'm not as spiritual as this person, or I'm not as enlightened, or I don't have as much wisdom, it's because you're catering the wrong part of you. So one of the things that you have to understand when you're trying to build relationship with God and you don't know where to start, and maybe you're not accustomed to the Christian way, maybe you don't claim to be Christian, but you want to figure out how to start building up to that place. A place to start would be to stop catering to your flesh. And by your flesh, I mean your soul. Those things that your mind is asking you for, those things that you naturally incline toward because of us all being in a carnal world and being human. If you continue to cater to your flesh and to your soul, that is the man that is going to be the strongest, the boldest, the one that will take over the rest of you. Just like, for instance, when we talk about the physical body, many people know people that are very vain, you would say. They tend to cater to their physical bodies all the time. Like, that's their only concern. They may not be very smart. They don't care much about education. They don't try to expand their brain, which is their soul. Then you might say that, you know, they always cater to the physical body. And naturally, their physical body probably looks great because that's the thing that they cater to the most. Then you meet people that are brainiacs. They always cater to their soul, their brain. They're constantly in school. They're constantly reading books. They do those things that feed their soul, their brain, their will, their emotions, their thoughts. And then you have your spiritual man. And this is where you have to learn how to cater to it. So a lot of times I think about how people think that Christians always want to read the Bible, or you always want to listen to Christian music, or you always want to be in church. And that's so far from the truth. Even for me personally, I try to have prayer time with God in the morning and at night. And honestly, I don't always feel like that. There are many times that I want to, and I can't wait to do it because I have so much that I'm wanting to hear from God, or even to say to Him, or even just to feel that connection that I feel when I'm with Him. But there are many times that I don't feel like that. Yet I do it anyway because I'm trying to continue to build up that spiritual man. If you do not do that, it will never be strong enough to steer you in the right direction. It will never be strong enough to encourage you to spend time with God. So you have to constantly, by choice, choose to feed it. And so that's why a lot of times you see Christians that are always in church, or they're always listening to a pastor on TV and things like that. It's because they've become wise enough to know that that's what it takes to walk into this way. And as you begin to do that, you'll want it more. You'll be ready to listen to it. Your body wants it because now your spiritual man is so strong that it is the strong power leading the other two parts of your body. So I want to encourage you to understand that no matter what decision that you make, no matter what it is that you're doing, whether it's the kind of music that you listen to, whether it's the kind of TV show that you listen to, you are feeding one of those three men. And you have to make a decision for it to be your spiritual man if you ever want to get to a place where your relationship with the Lord is the strongest. And even after you accept Christ in your life and you do this walk, you could still choose to not feed your spiritual man. And that's how you become weak, and that's how you stumble a lot and you sin a lot, because you're not feeding the proper person that you should be feeding on the inside. And I hope that that makes sense to you all, because I know that a lot of people struggle, and I feel like a lot of the reason for that is because things are not broken down in a place where you can truly understand it. For some reason, people think that when you accept Christ in your life that you no longer deal with your physical body, you no longer deal with your mind, will, and emotions, and it's simply not the truth. The difference is that you have an unctioning on the inside now, which is the Holy Spirit trying to guide you and lead you into doing things that will feed your spiritual man. However, when you choose to not do those things and you cater more to your flesh and you continue to listen to carnal music or watch television shows that are not feeding that spiritual man, then you become weak in the spirit, and then you'll tend to do more things that cater to your soul, your own will. So in order to surrender and get to that place where you're choosing God before yourself, you have to learn how to start feeding your spiritual man more. And even for myself, I get tired of listening to Christian music sometimes, especially when I'm trying to work out and get like a good cardio workout in. I would say that, you know, contemporary Christian music is not really the one that charges me and makes me want to work out. And in those instances, I will listen to something else, dance hall maybe, or Latino music or something. And so I'm not saying that all the time, every day, that you have to listen to it, but I would say that if you saw or were around me, 90% of the time I'm probably listening to Christian music. Well, maybe 85, let's say 85. But you have to also recognize that when you find yourself leaning toward one side or the other more, then you need to start doing the other thing. And I shouldn't say or the other. When you find yourself leaning to catering to your soul more, you need to do more that caters to the spirit. And yes, that includes reading spiritual books, things that inspire you spiritually, things that draw you closer to the Lord, because then it becomes easier to lay the other stuff down. So I encourage you just to do that. And I want to kill the myth that Christians just fall into this place where all they want to do is cater to their spirit. It's just not true. It takes a while. You have to grow into it, because even after you've accepted Christ, at that moment, your soul is still the stronger of the three, because you've been feeding your soul all this time. So now you get on this path of being able to see that, okay, I need to cater to my spirit, and then you start doing that. But it's not an overnight process, and I encourage you just to keep doing it. Even if you're not Christian, even if you're not a believer, even if you have not accepted Christ, even to cater to your spirit will still change the way that you go about life. It will encourage you to make decisions that you would not have made before. So there is no negative thing by going that route. And yes, it may be boring initially, but the more that you do it, the more that you will want to do it. I want to share another interesting thing that happened. So I recently had a friend, just this past Sunday was a friend's birthday, and I was thinking I'd like to get her something, but I had no idea what to get. So I was asking God, I was like, God, what do I get her for her birthday? And I'm telling you all this story because I want you to understand that the relationship with the Lord is such a real one that you have to experience it to believe it. Like, I think that people probably think that I'm crazy when I talk about this sometimes, because you don't really trust that God really does speak to you, but He does. He is a real person, and He has feelings, and He has conversation, and He wants to be spoken to, and He loves communication just like any of us. So I encourage you so much to get into this place, because I know how exciting it is to be able to hear His voice and to have someone around like that constantly knows everything. It's just an amazing thing. So the other day I was asking him, I said, what do I get her for her birthday? And I didn't hear anything right away. And then a few minutes later I heard lipstick. And this was just a thought in my head, and it sounded like my voice. But I knew I would have never thought about lipstick for her, because one, she doesn't really wear lipstick, and I don't know that I would ever think about giving someone that. Maybe some other friends, but not this friend particularly. So I said, lipstick, God? And I heard lipstick. So a while later, maybe the next day, I said, God, did I hear you right? Do you want me to get her some lipstick? And I heard lipstick again. So you just feel like this, you feel this confirmation on the inside that it is. You just feel like this is the right thing. And so I went, and immediately a certain color came to mind. And it's a color that I like, and it's one that I thought would look good on her. So I went and picked up a couple variations of different lipstick colors that I liked. And after I gave her the gift, later in that day, she texted me and she said, wow, God told me this morning to go get some makeup. So I say that because that is how interesting a life with God is like. And while that is only one small example, I tell you that because that's what life is really like all the time. I ask God about everything. God, what should I eat today? God, I'm not really hungry. Like, I don't know what I should get. What would be the most fulfilling thing? And He will answer me. Or I will say, Lord, I don't know how to plan my day today. How should I prioritize so that I can get a workout in? And He tells me. And I just really hope that you all understand how real life is with having Him in your life. Like, how crazy it can be, because you're always getting the best route to go when you ask Him. How would I have known that God had told her that morning that she needs to get makeup? She's not even a person that really wears a lot of makeup. But I knew immediately when I heard lipstick and that it wasn't my thought, that God probably had been dealing with her about it. And even when I gave her a card, I wrote in the card, I felt like the Lord told me to give you some lipstick, and I feel that he's probably been talking to you about it. So to get her text later that day, all I could say was, God, thank you, because he will always find a way to confirm for you that you're hearing right. And of course I struggle sometimes, and I say, is that my own thought? Is that God really? Because you're always mindful of the fact that you have your own brain and you have your own thoughts, and it could very well be you that's thinking it. But as you continue along in this way, you learn how to know when it's God. And like I said, the thing that you can always do is to use the method of like deduction. I thought to myself, Angel, that couldn't have been you, because you would never buy her lipstick. Not her. I might buy it for a friend that I know wears it, but I wouldn't buy it for someone that doesn't typically wear it. And so you start thinking like that, and you say, well, it couldn't have been my thought because I wouldn't have bought her that. And you realize that that was God giving you a suggestion. And that's the way it works with everything. So several other situations and times you can ask God something and you're like, wow, did I hear that? Was that God? You can always reduce it down to, did you know to say that? Were you thinking it? And you start learning how to build upon that and trusting that. And the more that you trust it, the more that you step out on it by even asking more questions, the more that you hear God speaking to you, and it becomes so real that you never want to lose that place with him.